Okay, so welcome back. Yes, you've heard the minister speaking about VAT also. Yesterday, you saw what the dailies, the perspective on VAT and all of that plan, whether or not it's going to be increased later this year. But today, we've got Mr. Chris David here with us. He's a futurist and tax expert. I mean, politics is over. Welcome back. But you see, first of all, let's put it out there. We're trying to get across to the FIRS on this matter to come and shed light in terms of what exactly is going on with all of those headlines. But we're not able to make it as we speak. But the show must go on, as they say. So, on the one hand, we see FIRS, the report, the daily is awash with their plan to increase VAT at some point later this year. Yesterday, again, another reporter saying, no, we don't plan to increase VAT. Now that we have the minister talking about, we will increase VAT much later this year. What's your impression of all of this making the rounds?
Well, good morning, and good morning, Nigerians. Let's state the first clear that taxation has remained one of the sustainable sources of revenue to government. So when you look at government of developed nations or developed nations, the economy is driven by taxation. But one thing we must also stress is that taxation is not fundraising.
Is that the way it's coming across?
Taxation is a catalyst for economic prosperity, because taxation is a fiscal tool. So you have the policies, you have the laws, and you have the administrative guidelines. Now, to put in context the VAT issue, let me disabuse some misconception about VAT in Nigeria. There's this misconception that Nigeria has the lowest VAT rate.
They say across, in fact, many parts of the world.
Yeah, lowest VAT rate. That is not entirely correct. Now, effective 2015, there is a list of approved taxes and levy. And one of the levies or taxes that state government have been empowered to collect is consumption tax. So you ask yourself, what is VAT?
Because after VAT, there's still consumption tax that the states collect.
Yes. So what is VAT? VAT is consumption tax. So what that means is that VAT is actually being collected in another form called consumption tax.
By states?
By state government. And what we have, or what we used to have in Nigeria, was a single rate. So it would be appropriate or correct to say that Nigeria has moved from a single rate VAT to multiple rates, because there are selected items which you charge consumption tax and VAT. So it's safe to say that some items are actually being charged at the rate of 10%, while others are what? 5%. So we must get that clear, so that when designing policy, you don't base it on the fact that your VAT rate is still 5%.
So how
that is not correct.
So how does this play out? When those states collect those consumption tax after VAT, do they remit to the government?
No, they don't remit to federal. That's
for states.
For states. You understand?
What informed that in the first place? Because I remember that in the wake of the talk about VAT, when it began, the states, I think it was the Lagos state government that said, look, they also should be collecting part of that VAT at the time. So what informed this consumption tax again? Because it looks like double taxation.
Correct. You just mentioned the word, double taxation. And I've also challenged some of my colleagues that VAT is consumption tax. And when you are saying another consumption, that is double taxation. Or let's just say that we have some items being charged at the rate of 10% and others at the rate of 5%. That's why I said there is a misconception. So policy makers should get it clear. The VAT rate in Nigeria is not just 5%. Some items are charged at the rate of 10%, while some are what? 5%. Then the second misconception is that high rates of taxes leads to high revenue. It is not correct. It is not in all cases that you have significant increase when you have high tax rates. This is what happened.
In terms of the percentage?
In terms of percentage, especially when you don't get the policy mix right. So what happens is that when you increase the tax rate, the tax burden is high. Is that not so?
On those who are already paying?
Yes. So what you have is that even those who are already paying will decide to opt out of the tax net.
How does that, how does that happen?
Out of tax net.
Can you afford
Yeah.
Can they do that?
It's not can they do that? That is what happens.
But that is unlawful.
Is that not tax evasion?
I'm not
avoidance?
Saying, yeah, you can say evasion.
Yeah.
Eh? But when the burden is high on you, so your response is, how do I avoid it? So what you see playing out, and this is an established research or studies. In 2014, I wrote a book called The Tax Strategy. And I've outlined all these variables that the Nigerian tax collection, Nigerian tax rate collection to GDP is very low. But we can actually increase this progressively to about 25% if we do certain things right. Now, the first thing is
to 25% if
yes,
you do things right. You
of
can increase
our
the
GDP,
VAT.
yes. And I've made that study. It's in my book. Now, do you know the VAT law that we are currently operating in Nigeria today is 25 years old? Can you imagine driving a 25-year-old car, 2019? What is going to be the performance?
It depends on how you take care of the car.
And what is going to be the performance?
It's called a vintage car.
So what we have is that the laws that we have, I'm not talking only about VAT now, but including the income tax laws, they are not consistent with the current economic realities.
So is government in order when they say the PPT and the income tax or corporate income tax may also be looked into?
Yes, look into, but not in the sense of increasing the tax rate.
Surely not decreasing it.
You understand? In fact, the thing is that when you even decrease the tax rate, you have more tax revenue. Because when the tax burden is less,
it attracts more people to participate.
Attracts more people to the
but
tax.
Do you think?
So what you need to do is to look at the tax laws holistically. And some of my colleagues did a good job. In 2017, the national tax policy, that has not been taken into consideration. There are some recommendations that have been made.
What were some of those?
For instance, look at this VAT. You can increase the VAT, the tax base of VAT, and increase the collections if you put in place some of the recommendations. One of them is VAT must have a threshold. It's not everybody that should be on the VAT regime. You must have operated your business to a certain level before you are registered in the VAT.
This is contrary to that view where some people think that if you are an SME or if you run a business, you must be able to file your tax returns.
No, that is not correct. Now, let me tell you what happens. Someone starts a business today. What the person is thinking is how that business survives, not how he's going to help government generate VAT. So when he collects the VAT, I'm speaking as a subject matter expert now. When he collects the VAT, the first thing he will do is to see how he applies back that money into his business. So that's why you record high rate of non-compliance. But by the time you set a threshold, it's going to establish two things. You are going to be dealing with established companies, few, and your rate of collection will be high. Two, the SMEs, because their prices is going to be lower than those high, big companies, they will be able to compete because the SMEs prices are relatively low compared to the established businesses. That is what you see in the UK. That's why you see the corner shop are still existing compared to the shops in the broad streets.
Can we successfully do that in this country without that price mechanism, that board, commodity board functioning properly?
We don't need you. Yeah, you can do that effectively. See, one of the things that I've also observed in Nigeria, in terms of policymakers, is they try as much as possible to go shortcut rather than engaging in intelligence